So we're doing it.
Action.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica. It's all good. And I just want to welcome you to our online special program on making your very own face mask in a sewing class. So I want to thank you all again for joining us and let you know that I actually have a few announcements before we get started. First, I just want to mention that the funding for this program was provided by the Fulton County Board of Commissioners. We thank the Fulton County Board of Commissioners for all that you've done for us and are doing. Also, we want to thank all of our sponsors out there for all your support as well. Thank you, and thank you. Now, we do have some online Zoom class expectations, so please listen carefully. During this class, all participants are agreeing and accepting to adhere to the following. Everyone participating in the class is agreeing to participate in the recording of this session, which can be used by the organizers and the sponsors of the class for educational purposes and commercial purposes. This can also be used in a later production such as YouTube, playback video, or other digital media and movie productions. Please also remember to be respectful in the class as there are other people in here as well. So you do need to be muted during this class. And if you have any questions, you can text those to the Zoom chat right there below the screen, or you can email the questions to atlarttext@gmail.com. That is atlarttechts@gmail.com. There will be a few minutes after the class for questions, so if you are hanging out at the end, please feel free to send those in. This class is going to run for about an hour and 30 minutes. You can take your own break at any time. Obviously, you're at home. But do know that we are recording, so you can check out this recording on Metro Web Designers YouTube channel. And that is Metro Web Designers on YouTube. And then that way you can play, you can pause, you can rewind, you can check it anytime. Now, that being said, along with muting your screen, if you could also mute your devices like your cell phone, your telephone. We don't want any interruptions in the background, and that'd be super awesome. Thank you. All right, let's get started. So, the objective of today's class is to teach how to sew a face mask and to show how to use these sewing techniques and skills on other fabrics related to arts and craft projects as well. Basically, creating your own unique mask. And I have a special individual with me today. Please, let's welcome Carmen. Hi, Carmen.
Hi there.
Carmen is going to be here teaching us and walking us through the process of making a mask. So, Carmen, let's get started. Would you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi there. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Carmen, and I have been sewing since I was a little girl, and that's close to 5 decades now. And I have been living in the Atlanta area for 15 years, during which time I have also been doing a little bit of sewing here and there. So today we're going to show you how to make a face mask from recycled materials, and I very much look forward to that.
That is awesome. We're really looking forward to the step-by-step process with you. Now, that being said, I believe you actually have some masks to show us.
I do.
Let's see those.
I have some masks that I have made from recycled materials.
Okay, that's awesome.
And here is one.
Oh.
And this one is actually, the fabric is not recycled, but the decoration on the side, I call it an applique. Some people call it an iron-on patch. This applique here was taken from an old garment. And I thought it was so pretty and so blingy. And
it is lovely.
It is fully lined. And the ties are made from an old t-shirt, so they're nice and soft and they hang, so that they should be very pretty and attractive and different. Here we have another one, and this is made from America's favorite material, denim. This was made from the legs of a pair of jeans. And this here, the lace, was the color on a blouse. And I thought it was such pretty lace, I couldn't pass it up. And then again, it has the filter pocket, so they're all lined. And the same t-shirt ties. They're nice and soft with a little bead, so they look a
You
little
said
blingy.
that was a collar from a t-shirt?
That was a collar from a regular blouse.
That is really nice.
So a collar from a blouse, and the top is the leg from a pair of jeans.
I love it.
This one is a little different. This one was made from a pillow sham, and this is an antique. It was an antique, vintage, I should say, a vintage pillow sham, and this is all cotton. And this here, which is so beautiful, it is hand embroidery.
Oh, wow. It is lovely.
Right, so it is beautiful, very delicate, and that is a grapevine leaf with a little grapes, all by hand. And fully lined, again with the ties. I just love the idea of the ties. They just look so pretty and so different. And this is one of my favorites.
Oh, wow.
This is 3 layers, and this was made from a little girl's party dress. So on the outside is embroidered chiffon, which is super elegant and absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
Very easy to wash and take care of. On the inside, there is another, as you can see it here, I'm trying to show you on the inside, there is another layer of just cotton fabric. It's a little shiny, but it's very pretty to pick up on the green from the outside. And of course the pocket filter and the t-shirt ties with a little bead. And I think these are just absolutely adorable, and it's a great way to recycle things that you may have laying around the house that you no longer have use for, but sometimes there are pieces that are so beautiful and so special that even though you know that donating them to the Goodwill is a good thing, you hate to let them go, well, now it's the time to give them new life and wear them on on your face and make an accessory out of it, not just a mask, but an accessory, and make it look pretty.
That's right. This pandemic looks like it's going to be here a while. So
Yeah.
why not be cute while you do it?
Exactly, a fashion statement.
So with that being said, we do have Carmen here. As you see, the masks that she's made are lovely, where you can make your very own at home from your things lying around, as she said. So we are going to start breaking down how to do that. And it looks like you've got a lot of supplies there. So can you tell us the materials?
Right, I have my notions, and I am going to quickly walk you through the notions that we are going to need for making a mask somewhat similar to these.
Okay.
We are going to need thread, and of course your thread should match the color of your fabric. When I actually make mine, I'm going to use white, but we're going to need thread. We're going to use 1/4 inch elastic. This is a 1/4 inch, and from here I am going to cut 2 pieces anywhere between 7 to 8 inches long, and those are going to be the straps on your mask.
Okay.
We are also going to need hand sewing needles, and this is one of the ways in which they come. They usually come in an assortment and a little pack, but these are hand sewing needles. You are going to need a tape, a measuring tape or a ruler, and you can go through your kids' school supplies and grab one of their rulers, and sometimes those, if you're not making a dress, if you're making something small, a ruler works better, and I am going to use this one, which is a seamstress ruler. It's called a sliding ruler, but
cool.
It's little and it's stiff, and I feel more comfortable working with that.
Okay.
You are also going to need a pin holder and some pins, and I have 2 different kinds of pins here and 2 different kinds of pin holders. If you're going to buy this notion, most likely what you're going to find in the stores is going to be a tomato or something that looks like a tomato. We call it a tomato, but it's a pin cushion, so this is commercially made. I made this one myself, so it looks a little different. Again, use your imagination and do something cute. And pins, 2 different kinds of pins, either one of them work well. We are also going to need scissors, and I'm holding 2 pairs in my hands, because these are the ones for cutting fabrics. You cannot cut anything else but fabric with these,
Okay.
or you will damage them, okay? So I always have my fabric scissors and a pair of, you can call them utility scissors, and with these you can cut other things like, for example, if there's paper for cutting the pattern. If you have, I am going to be using a bridge for the nose as well. I can use those for those, but always take good care of your shears and have a spare one. We are also going to need a seam ripper, and even the best of sewers always make mistakes because we're not perfect, and these come very handy for taking apart any mistakes that you make. So this is a very important notion. We are also going to need a marking tool, and here in my hands I'm holding a pen. This is the last resource that you would use because it has ink and it could ruin your project, but you could very carefully use a pen, a coloring pen, or a number 2 pencil. And I'm sorry, this is a coloring pencil, or a number 2 pencil work very well. This is called a tailor's chalk, and it is actually chalk. But if you cannot find these, and I don't even know if they make these anymore, you can grab a regular piece of chalk, and that is what I recommend the most. It's my favorite because it does not ruin your material, and when you're done marking, you can just wipe it with your hand and it will come off without leaving any marks. We are also going to need some piece of wire or some material that is flexible but at the same time can stay in place for the nose bridge. And you can use either wire or you can use a chenille stem. Some people call this a pipe cleaner, and this is great because you can shape it and it will stay in your nose, but these will work well as well. We are also going to use a pattern, and I have mine pre-made and ready to go. It has been cut. It has the seam allowance built into it, and if you guys do not have a pattern, please send us an email and we will be more than happy to provide you with these patterns. But this is what we're going to be using today.
And we will send that to you the same email we gave you earlier, and we'll give you that email again later.
We use a filter because this is inserted in the filter pocket that the masks will have. We'll show you how to do that. And this is what really protects you from the infection, okay? These we do not have. These are specially made, but I am sure there are sources out there on the internet where you can find them. But this is a very vital part. And finally, the fabric that we're going to be using. This is just regular cotton fabric that you can pick up at any fabric store. This is for the project. This is a bag, and this bag has seen better days, but I am going to use this fabric because the fabric is in great shape, and that is going to be the filter for my recyclable masks. So I am going to recycle this little bag. It was a bag for linens. And a jeans leg. That is going to be my outside. And the last part is I am going to do some bling on the side, like the mask that I showed you with the paisley. And I brought some here to give you some ideas. You could do something like this. I picked these up Tuesday morning, and it doesn't have it anymore, but it was like $2 for 4 of them. And these are for a little girl. Those would be adorable. You can also pick up, I believe I picked this one up at Walmart, and it was like $1, $1.50. These I know for a fact that I picked them up at the Dollar Tree, so $1 each. And look at how gorgeous those are.
Oh, you can make your mask really cool.
All of that bling.
Now, is that what the iron is for?
And we are going to do it with the iron. We're going to iron it on, and of course, you can look around you. You can even take, like I did, from an old piece of from old clothing. You can take something prettier. You can make up your own, or you can sew it, or you can glue rhinestones. You can use your imagination. But I just thought that this was a great idea, and they're already made for you. And at the Dollar Tree, four of them, that's 25 cents.
Those are really beautiful. So that I have a question because
Sure.
I know you're getting ready to show us how to do several things here, and you have a sewing machine, which everyone at home might not have a sewing machine, or they might have one but not know how to use it. Which you shouldn't throw that away. There might be a manual. You can learn to use that down the road. But if you're using a sewing machine, does it have to be one with a foot pedal, or does that matter? Because I see you have a foot pedal.
Yes, the foot pedal is important to me, at least. I don't like the ones that don't have it. I prefer it because I can control it. So yes, we are going to be using a sewing machine. Any sewing machine will do. You don't need a specialized one. And in fact, I am going to turn this one so that you can see it. This is an old Singer machine. It's from the 80s, from the 1980s, but it is all made out of metal and it does not move. And today's machines are made out of plastic and they vibrate and they walk away, literally get away from you. So this is a heavy machine, that's not going to happen, and I absolutely love it. And it works great, which is what we need. And the last tool we're going to need is a sewing, an ironing board and an iron. Again, it doesn't have to be a new iron, just an iron, because as we make the mask, we will iron, and it really does give the product a much finished look, much more professional. And that is what we need for as far as supplies.
Thank you for walking us through those supplies. As y'all notice, I'm asking quite a few questions, as I am not one who knows how to sew yet. But with Carmen being here, you might have some questions, as I mentioned before. So along with anything that you might have heard me ask, if there's something that maybe I left out or something you've just been wondering yourself, again, you can email us at atlarttex@gmail.com. That is atlarttechts@gmail.com. And you can, of course, message us if you're watching live on Zoom right now. We'll get to those questions. In the meantime, let's move to the actual process. So, Carmen, can you walk us step by step through what we need to do now?
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure. So, not that it matters, but I am going, you can do this in any sequence that you would like, but I am going to start with the lining for the mask. So I'm going to use that little bag.
And when you say lining, you mean the inside?
The inside of the fabric, and it is, you can either call it the lining, it's also the pocket, the filter pocket, because that is where we place the, between the two layers of fabric, we put the filter in there.
Awesome.
And I have two pieces here for the pattern. One is the outside, and one is the inside, or the lining, and the lining is a little smaller. It's about an inch smaller, okay? And as we assemble it, you will see why. So I am going to take that piece of the pattern, the lining, and what I am going to do is trace it on the fabric. And I am tracing with the chalk.
I like how you used your pin cushion, your specialized pin cushion to
Correct.
keep it in place.
I normally, if I were not showing you this, I would pin my pattern because that's how I'm used to cutting. But I picked up this way of doing it, and particularly for people who are just getting started. This tracing the pattern makes their life a lot easier. So I'm showing you guys how to do that, and we are almost done. So here is that pattern traced. You can see it, right?
Yes, I
So
see the
traced it. And now what I am going to do is I am going to use a couple of those pins to hold it in place so that it doesn't.
Could you hold that up one more time, just out for everyone to see out
Sure.
there too? No one see that? There we go.
And you can see the black dashes. That is where I am going to cut. I traced that around the pattern piece. Oh, and by the way, this is two pieces. This is front and back, so when I am done cutting, the whole lining is complete. So
Okay.
out of each piece, we have to cut two from the
And that the
fabric.
pins, that's what the pins for, to hold
And
those two
correct,
Okay.
so that the fabric doesn't wiggle on me, because if it wiggles, it's not going to come out okay. You always, not always, once you get better at it, you can play with that, but when you start sewing, you should try to keep your fabric on a surface. Don't lift it, because when you lift it, you distort it, you tend to distort it. So I am cutting along those dashed lines. And this, guys, is really, really easy. Also, if you were using fabric that had a front and back, there are fabrics that are different colors or different textures, you would do this and you don't have to worry about positioning, because you get both of the pieces cut in the correct way at once. So that is it. And I am now going to show you how I have my two pieces.
Oh, very nice.
See?
Yes.
So that is my both sides. Now we are going to do the outside from the pant leg. And I am going to do exactly the same. I have a very wide pant leg here. So if yours were smaller, like maybe a child's jeans, you may have to play with it a little. But to make things easier, I picked one that I knew I didn't have to do that with. So, and I am going to do the same thing. And actually, guys, I told you that this is a last resort, but the black is not showing here.
Okay.
So I am going to use the pen, and the reason why I am doing this is because it is going to go on the sides. So we are going to cut that mark. Okay, if it was any kind of other mark in the middle, particularly if you're making a garment, keep those pens away from your clothing or from your project, because it can really ruin it. If it bleeds, your project is destroyed. But for this purpose, we're going to cheat a little bit, and I am going to do the same thing and pin before it moves.
It's good to see that, because I think if someone saw jeans, they would think, oh, it's just going to be together anyway. But I take it that even if it's a piece of fabric like this that's naturally together, you still got to pin it. Cause
Right. Well, yes, so it doesn't move. So there is my front, and here is the line where I am going to cut, and now this is the back of the leg. You can't see it, right? Because I'm saving time. But I am going to get one from this side, one from this. And I always recommend that you guys do that you fold the fabric so that you can get two identical pieces. So if you had a piece of fabric, instead of that's already folded, I recommend you do exactly the same thing. Fold it down the middle like so, and place your pattern here, and trace it, and you get both sides as well.
Carmen, I love it. You're so thorough. Thank
That
you.
is very important, okay? Very important, because like I said, when you're working with fabrics that have different textures and different colors, you can end up cutting a lot of pieces, and trust me, I am a seasoned sewer, And I still make those mistakes when I'm not concentrating on what I'm doing, you know?
Oh, that's right. Well, we're going to be
So-
very quiet and let her concentrate.
Right. No. But sewing is like putting a puzzle together. And the most important part is cutting. Because if you cut your pieces correctly, then you can assemble them correctly, and it will make sense to you. The project will make sense to you. And the denim is a little hard, so if you see me laboring here, it's because the scissors are laboring. So I am going to remove the pins. And you will see now what I mean here, because we have two different, so we have the two, and those are identical, right?
Yes.
But there's the inside.
Wow.
Now, I could very well have got one and one and ended up with both of them going in the same direction, two different colors, which you may want to do that as a design, as a design feature. But when you're working with other fabrics, it will not work. But in this case, you have to have a right and a left. And of course, this is going to be my outside. Now, if you like the inside better, you can use the inside, and this is pretty as well. But for my purposes, I'm just going to use it in the traditional way, okay? So, now, for pinning, we're going to pin this before putting it through the sewing machine. And for pinning it, I am lining my pieces, and since I cut them together, these are just perfect, absolutely perfect. So I am going to pin, and you always pin going that way, because you're going to be sewing along this edge, and once you get more comfortable with sewing, you can sew over those pins.
Okay, so the pins are supposed to be facing out.
Out. So that's how we position them, and then we're going to sew here. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing with the lining. And the lining, clearly, I know that the camera is not going to show it to you guys, but to me, as I am looking at it, there is definitely a right and a wrong here. And I will bring it to you to see. See how it's shiny on the outside and dull on the inside?
Yes.
And now, since it is the lining, it doesn't really matter much, but if it was the outside, that would be a big issue.
So I noticed you said the outside, but it was in the middle. So that means you have to kind of do the reverse to sew it? Is that what's happening?
Correct.
Okay.
I turned it inside, and what I'm doing is I'm pinning on the wrong side. This is called the wrong side.
Okay.
Because I am going to sew on the wrong side, so that when I turn it, this is the outside.
I see that. Okay, that actually
Okay.
makes a lot of sense.
And I did it with this as well, although this is not as visible, but to me it is. Okay, and now we have these assembled. And I am going to turn my machine this way. And I do have a pedal down here. And all we're going to do is just run one straight seam. Now, what I do is, I believe I told you that the seam allowance is built into that pattern that we have. What I do is, because even with all of my experience, I cannot still sew straight and do not feel bad about that, because I don't. That's not, for some reason, doing straight lines is not my gift.
I agree. I can't cut straight either.
I can't either. That's why I have to line and use the patterns. And I can't write straight either and write out. So for those of us that have that little shortcoming, this is how I have learned to deal with that problem. And I hope that the camera is grabbing it. I place my fabric under, this is called the presser foot, and this is my needle, and the machine is all ready to go. So I place my fabric under the presser foot, and I am lining the side of the fabric with the side of the presser foot. So that is going to be my guide. So that when I finish, I have a seam allowance, and at the same time I have a perfect seam, perfectly straight, and you will never be able to tell that I can't sew straight. So it's always good to leave, these are called tails, little tails like these, because they help you sew. And if you hold them, that will help you feed the fabric. And what I am going to do now is I am going to secure my sewing. So I am going to do about 3 stitches forward. 1,
Is everything okay?
these threads, yeah, I don't know why I did that. But this happens, guys. Don't be discouraged by that. And actually, I am glad that it happens so that you can see that it is a normal thing, okay?
Okay.
It's perfectly normal. So don't feel bad or do not feel inadequate.
And for those of us who are a little lost, what just happened?
I'm sorry?
What's wrong? What happened?
What happened was that it wasn't pulling the thread right. And usually when that happens, the problem is up here.
Okay.
So I took it all out and I am rethreading the machine. Hopefully this time will be okay. So here we are again, placing that presser foot at the beginning, flushing the fabric with the presser foot, and I'm going to do about three stitches, right? Holding this. 1, 2, and 3. Now I am going to go back, and I have a button here. All of the machines have it that will allow me to go back. So I am reinforcing. All of the seams should be reinforced at the beginning and at the end.
Oh, okay.
Because if you don't, they will split, and you will lose. It will unstitch. So you reinforce it. So we go back about 3. And it's easier if I hold these, it guides me. And now I'm going forward again. And I am going slow for you, but you can go as fast as you want. And I am going to reinforce here as well. This is the end of my seam. And that, so that was 3 times. And Jessica is my quality expert, my quality assurance. So I want you to see.
Oh yeah, always
Right?
reinforced.
How they're reinforced, so that is not going to go anywhere.
That's wonderful.
Well, that one did, but it's a different problem. The fabric, see how it's fraying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more delicate fabric, but that should not happen. But we're going to
Thank you for that lesson
Yes,
there, because a lot of people might not know that.
Very, very important. And particularly when we're going to be putting these parts together. So again, I am going to do the same thing, flushing my fabric with my presser foot. I am going to do, and again, it's easier if you hold on to these, they help you guide, right? So 1, 2, and 3. You can do 2, you can do 4, but I have found out that 3 is a good number for me, so I do 3. I'm going back again and forward. And yes, I am going over the pins with a sewing machine. I do not recommend that you do this yet because you could break the needle, but I know where everything falls, so I know that I can go over it. I can kind of calculate and go over it.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, and I'm getting to the end here, so I'm going back again.
I'm learning different words like
Yes,
reinforcement.
well, yeah, I am also going to the vocabulary as we go, so.
That's wonderful.
There it is, and all reinforced on both
I
ends.
can actually see it from here. I can see it from over here.
So it
That's
should be
good.
a little darker.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we're doing, and by the way, guys, if you see me using these little scissors, I love these little guys. I picked them up at the Dollar Tree. They're very sharp, and they're just so much easier for purposes of cutting the thread than using this.
Those are a little scary at certain points.
It's like you're going to prune a tree with these, you know? But these are very easy. So whenever you have a curve like that one, oh, and I also wanted to show you how proud I am of that seam.
That's
See
a
how
nice
nice
seam.
and straight by
That's a
using
nice
the
seam.
by using the pressure flexor guide. So I am going to take these and I am going to cut this seam, because what happens is if I don't, when I turn it, it's going to be a little bit bunched up. And I will show you. That's not, it's got like pieces all over the place, right, that are, it's not a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to snip it and you will see the difference, right? Now I take my scissors and I am being incredibly careful not to cut over my stitches. So this is just a little cut right there. And I will show you what that looks like. And I think I'm doing them about probably 1 inch apart, right? Alright, so that is what they look like, their little snippets here. Now, when I turn it,
Oh, wow.
see what a difference that makes?
Yes. Yeah, that's drastically different.
With no bunches. And the reason why is because here the fabric is pulling.
Uh-huh.
Once I did that, it's like I'm giving it a little bit of breathing room. I made it more elastic. That makes it, see? So that's called give.
Wow.
So I have give. And of course I am going to do the same thing with this. And Jessica, since you're being my assistant today, would you mind turning on my iron?
Yes.
Just move that to put it on the orange.
And what number?
It doesn't matter.
I'll put on 7.
Yeah, and this goes in too, because that's
And
the
this-
safety. Yeah. Push it in.
Oh!
It's an old iron, but works
Yes,
like a charm. Works
Never
like
did-
a
I
charm.
didn't know how to.
Okay.
And should I sit it up or lay it down?
Oh no, leave it up because it will burn the.
I mean, I'm telling on myself now.
Jessica has never ironed.
My husband's been doing that for me.
So there, see, there you go. There you go. I don't have that luxury.
And Carmen, while she is doing that, I just
Ironing
want to.
is very important. You should see what a difference ironing makes. So again, I did the slits on this one so that when I turn it, it's nice.
For all the professionals watching
Nice
right
and
now, I know we're giving a lot of detail, but you know, we're in a time where a lot of people are trying something new so we can be safe and have more resources. So for our very beginners, there's so many things happening right now that I didn't know, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, except you might be at home following along right now. So thank you for clearing these things up and explaining the little things, from the little cuts to different scissors. All this is so important. To bends.
And not only that, but in my experience, if you learn how to do something right from the beginning, you're picking up that habit. It's much easier than learning how to do it wrong and then having to correct that problem. Okay, so hopefully the camera can see this. And what I am going to do is, remember this light color, this is my liner. So I am going to mark here, and I just want a very tiny mark, about 1/4 inch, okay? And I am going to mark that with the chalk. And I will show you when I'm done. And this is like and my fabric is fraying. It's getting very hairy. It's gonna have to gonna need a haircut by the time we're done, right? I am doing these on both sides. And I will show you guys. Now I have about 1/4 inch marked in there on both sides. And you should be able to see it in black, right?
I see it, yes.
So now I'm coming over to my handy
I will get out of
iron.
your way.
Hopefully I will not trip getting out of here because the pedal is in the way. There we go.
You got a cord in between your legs.
Yeah, oh I know.
Okay, good.
So what I am going to do now, guys, is those little marks that I made that were 1/4 of an inch, I am going to fold that. I am going to fold along that line, and if you want, you can do a straight line if that helps you. And you'll see how much this iron helps. So I iron that, and once I do it again, it will stay, because what you really want is that mark. You can see that mark,
Yes,
right?
it's
Nice and sharp.
Strong crease.
A very, very strong crease. Microphone is falling.
Don't worry, we didn't see that. We
Technical
didn't see that.
difficulties. At least it was the microphone, you know. So I am doing the same thing on the other side. I want to make that crease. Now, for those of you guys who have a very good eye, you could do these without even measuring it. I don't like to measure too much. I can do it. I have made so many of these. I have probably made close to 1,000 of them. I know exactly where to fold. So if you're good and you have a good eye, you can do it without measuring. But otherwise, please do measure. And what I am going to do right now is I am going to use that line, or again, you could measure as well. You could come back here, and the next one is going to be probably about 1/2 an inch.
And we're folding those on the inside, right?
Correct. I am going to fold that again. Because I am going to be sewing over this. And see now, it's folded, it's like an accordion, and fold again.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And I think that just for now, I am going to place a pin right there, just so that it stays in place. And I am going to do the same thing with the other side. And actually, I am doing this a little bit backward. Because I need to sew. That's what it looks like. I need to not sew, iron the inside. And a little bit of ironing goes a long way. It really results in a much, much nicer, crisper, more professional finished product. Okay? So if you have something that looks like this, then you're doing great, because this is exactly what it's supposed to look like. And I am, although denim is a little more difficult, but I am going to try to iron this a little too. And this is on the inside. The center, I should say, on the center. I'm ironing on the center. To make even. And now notice that I am not doing the edges of these, okay? I am leaving them the way they are. Or actually, at this point, since you're here, you may want to do that as well, because we are going to sew that. Okay, and look at that. How beautiful is that, isn't it? Perfectly round. Right? Very nice.
Fabulous.
All right,
Fabulous.
so I'm not measuring because I know you guys, but you can measure, again, a quarter of an inch. And again here about another 1/2 an inch. And this will be your casing once we finish assembling it. This is where the elastic is going to go behind the ears.
Okay.
So the elastic will go through here.
That makes sense.
In case you're wondering what all of this is about, I want to explain it to you so that you can see where we're going. That these make sense. And this, by the way, is called the casing. And I am going to turn off that iron for now, so it gets very hot. And again, I'm doing that pin. I have to jump over the cable again. A little cramp for spacing here. Okay. So now I will take my fabric in my two parts. This is my outside, the front. This is my inside of the mask. And what I want to do is right side with right side. Lint. I want to put those together. And I just matched those two seams, right? See them? They're perfectly matched. And that is very important, because if you don't do that, it's going to come out crooked. So make sure you line that very carefully.
Excuse me.
And I am going to do another pin back here. And normally, you guys, at home, when I am doing my quantities, I don't do these. I just make sure my center is very well lined, and I put a pin in there, and I just run without it. And I as I go, I am, and actually, I'm messing you guys up, because we need to sew these parts. On the inside, we need to sew that casing that we
the creases that we just created?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not enough. But only on the inside part, okay? I am so eager to see it finished that I forget steps. And like I told you, I get distracted when I talk, so. All right, so this is that casing that we did. On the inside, we're sewing along that line. And I will show you in a minute what that looks like.
And originally, we would have done this before we put them together.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why I stopped me and I removed the pins. I was teaching a class once and I forgot to do that part. So, but this is what at this point it should look like. Okay? And one is much shorter than the other one because it is supposed to be. So if your piece is looking like that so far, give yourself a big pat on the shoulder because you're doing awesome. So I am lining the bottom as well, making sure it's nicely aligned. And again, I'm placing some pins in there, and like I started to say, when I'm home, I don't do that because I know where everything goes once the center is lined, and I manipulate it with my hands. And that is something that comes with, as you get more skilled and more comfortable with your materials and your sewing machine, it happens naturally. You learn how to manipulate your hands. So again, we are going, this is very important. This back stitching here is very important because we're going to put a lot of pressure on that side of the mask. And again, I am using the side to line my my seam so it's nice and straight.
And that was the other back stitch.
And that was, I reinforced both sides because these two parts, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on them. So if I don't reinforce well, they're going to rip apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very frustrating to go through all of this work to have one of your seams split apart and ruin your entire piece.
I cannot imagine.
Yes, very frustrating. So we're going now, this is the top part.
Okay.
So we're going to do the same thing on the top part. And again, I know I'm repeating, but I'm following the same steps, right? I'm lining my presser foot with the side of the fabric so that I can get a nice straight seam and reinforcing beginning and end. So about 3 stitches back. Here we go. And here I am going to pivot a little so that I can get a nice little peak on the nose. But if you are not comfortable with that yet, you can go straight and it looks just as nice. But I just wanted mine to be a little bit more pronounced. Okay, so here we are. Oh yes, and of course guys, make sure you always cut these legs. Okay, and now it's almost ready, right?
Yeah.
So
wow.
now what I am going to do, and I am going to remove these pins because I know they're going to hurt my hands if I leave them there. What I am going to do now is I am going to turn these inside out. And I do that, you can figure out how you can do it, but for me what works is putting both my thumbs in here and grabbing the fabric with the rest of my fingers, doing like an accordion, and boom, it is turned.
Oh, okay.
Completely turned.
That makes so much sense now. Wow.
Now
So
it is
everything's on the inside.
completely correct. Because that is what happens. It's kind of hard to envision while you're doing it because you're working from the inside out, from the wrong side out. But once you turn it, there it is. I mean, even if I don't do anything else to that, you know that's a mask.
That looks great.
That's already a mask. So what I am going to do is come back here and give it a little press because it's going to help as well. Oh guys, and while I am here, let me show you. The fabric naturally curls up here. Don't fight it. Use that to your advantage, and you're gonna sew over that. And then you're sewing here. And this is just so that it's easier to top stitch for the next step. And I make everything line up that way. And see how it's naturally curling there? Right? You can see it
Yes.
curling?
Yes, I see the curl.
So, just sew that. And I am going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm working with 2 fabrics here that shed a lot. It's like having a dog, you know? Or a cat. They're shedding. And now, guys, please get acquainted with your iron because I am going through this. This is all cotton, so I have it in the cotton setting. But if you get the iron too hot and the fabric is not cotton, you can burn your garment. And I just did that with a pair of pants the other day,
Oh,
and I
my.
kicked myself for a long time.
And looking at some of the like embroidery and things that you've used before, I can see how
Yes,
that could really mess things up.
absolutely. If you put the iron to this will melt
Oh.
and will stick to the iron as well and ruin both the design and the iron. So that little curl, what I am going to do here is I personally don't have to pin anymore, but if you want, you can pin here just to keep these. But with the iron, I'm kind of forcing it to stay flat, flushed. And you can see it, right? So what I am going to do is I am going to start here, and I am going to do one straight seam that way, again, using this as the side, and that is called top stitching. And the reason why I'm doing that, again, you do not, look, that's perfectly beautiful, you do not need to do that. But I like to do mine, this is the finished product, because it holds both layers of fabric in place and it does not allow the lining to roll. If you don't do that, the lining will roll. So if you ever see someone that's wearing like a black mask and there's white sticking out, and I have seen a lot of that out there, that's the reason why. So it's just one little extra step that gives you a much, much nicer, better finished product that you're going to be much happier with, and you're going to get a lot of confidence. And by the way, I know that I said reinforce. I didn't reinforce there, but that's because I'm not going to put any pressure on it. And also, I am going to be sewing over that. And denim, guys, it's a very heavy fabric. So depending on the sewing machine that you have, it may labor going over the seams. And that is perfectly okay. I had one machine, it was a Sears brand. Absolutely loved that machine because it was older than my children. And it would not sew denim.
Oh.
You will get stuck on that part right there, the seam, you will get stuck and you will not sew it. So, if that happens to you, know that it's not you, it is the machine. They're not all made equal. And I love the way this machine sounds because it sounds like a real sewing machine.
Reminds me of my grandma's.
Yeah, some of them sound wimpy, but this one sounds good. So, there you go, and we're almost done with these. So if this is what you have so far, that's what you're supposed to have, okay? So now, remember that we did the fold? That was the other fold that we did. I am going to sew it. In this one, I absolutely positively want to
Reinforce?
Reinforce.
Oh, I'm learning.
Absolutely, because I am going to be putting the elastic through here, and the elastic is going to pull, so it can break, and your whole mask will fall apart. So, and what just happened here, you guys, is that my thread broke.
Oh.
Okay, so I just have to thread it again, and thankfully.
Now, while you're seeing all the things that's happening with the sewing machine, keep in mind we are doing hand stitching as well. In case you don't have your own machine, then you can still do this with the very simple things. You might not necessarily want to go and buy a sewing machine right now, but it's a really good thing to have. So we have both lessons just in case.
And another thing is that no matter what you pay these days, chances are you're not going to be able to get a machine.
What?
Nope, they are out of stock everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Because people have taken to sewing again during the pandemic. And not only with the, I actually have met individuals who didn't know how to sew. And they took sewing lessons, learned how to sew, started making the masks, and have businesses making masks. And they're making money for themselves and their families making masks. So this is not just a hobby, but it can be a great, great business opportunity, not only at this time, but any time, because sewing is a lost art. And I totally call it an art, but it is a lost art. Not many people do it anymore. So
speaking of sewing and putting this together, now I know you showed us a wire. Isn't that supposed to be inside?
The wire is supposed to be inside.
So that's something that you do.
So that is something that you do, and I am glad you called me on that because I always forget.
Ah.
And what I am going to do, you guys, since I forgot, is I am going to do it by hand. So there is always, and I am going to use the chenille. So I am going to cut that in four.
Now I see you have what when we were kids, we call those pipe cleaners.
Pipe cleaners.
But you can like use the twisty tie off the bread, right?
You can use that off
the ones that
the
come
bread. You can always use them off the garbage. Garbage bags.
Yeah, the ones that come in the packs. So
It's, in essence, what you're looking for is just a little wire that's not too hard because it's going to hurt your nose and you're not going to be able to put it through the machine. But something that keeps the shape on that point.
now I know you said that you forgot it. So can you tell us where that stuff would have been?
That would have been placed after I sewed the front and the back.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone in, put it in place, and sewed it with a zigzag.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I turn it, it's in place.
Okay.
So now what I did
now-
was I did it backwards. Now I turned it, and I am going to place, and I always forget these because when I make mine, I don't use these peas.
Ah.
None of these, so that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to that. So none of these have it, okay?
Yeah, I see that.
So-
yeah.
This is, it's optional, but it does keep the shape, and you will see it once I'm done.
And
So-
even as you see, if you decide you want to add it later.
You can do it, correct. And not only that, but if you don't like it, if you do it here,
Can I ask that you move the sewing machine
it's
so we can watch
easier.
you?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay.
It is easier, also easy enough to remove it. And all I am doing here, guys, is I am trying to grab these little, because I don't want it to show through the outside, so I'm trying to come here and grab the inside of the lining.
So that portion there, that's inside where the same place the filter would be, just sewed at the top.
In between, correct. This is in between the two layers of fabric. And the advantage of doing it this way, as an afterthought, is that if you don't like it, you can remove it and it's easy enough.
Wow.
Once you put it in place and you do 2 or 3 seams over it, you have to take the mask apart if you don't like it, to take it.
Gotcha.
So maybe in a way it's a good thing that we did this,
Yeah.
that we made that mistake. We can learn, guys. There is no, well, if you're making a pair of pants and you make it with one leg, that may be a mistake.
Quite the fast.
If like the rest of us, you have two. But you can turn all of these opportunities, all of these mistakes, you can turn them into a learning opportunity. Okay, so don't beat yourself over the head because of that. And what I like about these is that it kind of looks like a caterpillar.
It does look like a caterpillar.
Doesn't it?
Oh, it's so cute.
Isn't that cute?
Yes.
It's nice and fussy, but no. We are going to take that, and there it is, and we're going to turn it again. Right? And now my mask is all finished. And it does have the wire on top, and I will show you how that
Oh, wow.
works. There, and I open it, and I don't know, I'm gonna have Inspector 66 take a look at it
Mm-hmm.
while I cut the,
Oh, that is
Yeah.
really neat. I love
Right?
this. Yes.
and you can feel it in there, it's nice and, well, not too hard, but it is
It's good and flexible.
correct, flexible. You can work with it. So I am going to cut now 2 pieces of 1/4 of an inch. This is slightly over 1/4, but 1/4 is good. And again, if you want to be like me and use the t-shirt ties, all I do for the t-shirt ties is I take my t-shirt, I put it on a flat surface, I measure about 1 inch, I cut it across. You can also trace it, cut it, and once you have cut that, you pull it. And when you pull it, I can get out of just the bottom of one t-shirt, out of one strip, I can probably get two masks. And elastic is also very hard to come by these days.
Okay.
So that you know, yeah, all of the notions have disappeared. And I would think it's because of the demand. Okay, so I know you didn't see what I did, but I will show you next time. But for inserting the elastic, they make all kinds of gadgets, but there is no need to spend money on that. I have a safety pin here, and if you don't have a safety pin, you can also use a hairpin, a bobby pin. I keep calling them bobby pins, I don't know if
I call it bobby pins.
bobby pins. Hairpin, you can use that as well. And
Oh, this is like when you lose the string in your sweatshirt and you have to pull it back through.
oh, you've
I've
done
learned-
that?
Yes.
Or on the pants, on the PJs, and right?
I haven't had it in the PJ situation.
Because usually these days the PJs come with a string and elastic
Yeah.
that's sewn in place as well. But when they just have a string, like sweatpants, sweatpants only have the string, so the string can go. And these guys will be too small for the sewing machine. You can try it, but I do it by hand, and I do it twice, front and back, to tie my elastic here. I'm also making sure that I'm knotting it at the end, and I will show you in the next segment how to do this part, the hand sewing. And there you go. Okay, and that's what you get. So I am going to take one side and pull on it because I want it to disappear. And these, I found out again that about 8 inches is the perfect size for the average person. But if you're making it for yourself, maybe if you're making one for a child that it's smaller, you can also measure and do it to size. And that is the side. So let me show you again. I'm having a glorified fight here with my knee. Okay. So what I did, guys, is I took the elastic, the safety pin, and I put it through the elastic, closed it, and that's how I got that. And again, I am putting it through that, it's called the casing, through the casing. Sometimes you can have difficulty putting these through because the fabric folds and gets in your way. And it can get very frustrating. You have to do it over and over and over. Like right now, I can see that mine is not going out the right way. But play with it. Don't lose your patience. Try again, and eventually we'll come. Try to find the way out of that little tunnel, and eventually you will get it out. And again, I am sewing the elastic together. There are people that do a knot, but as you can see, I am a no-frills sewer, and I love to save. I'm very thrifty. So by doing a knot, not only do you get a bigger bulk, but you're also using a lot more elastic than you need to. And this way, by cutting it and sewing it, I can cut it exactly to measure, and I don't waste any elastic. And again, I am pulling it. And there it is, but now I need my bling.
Wait, you need your what?
My bling.
Oh, the
We're
bling.
doing the bling.
Yes, bling bling.
Okay, and again, guys, there are some of these that are iron-on. These are iron-on. So I just put it in there and iron it on. And they have a glue that's released by the heat.
So the other ones are not iron-on?
And the other ones are not. The other ones come with glue. And when I am off camera, I am going to try to see if I can do a better job with the glue and the iron. But there is a possibility that it will ruin the iron, so I don't want to do that while we're in the class. But I will show you. It's very easy. I am going to do, what do you think, right or left?
Right.
Right, okay. So there is my applique. Lots of bling.
Of course.
And I am just going to place it right here because I think, and this is very sticky, so you know. But my only concern with this is that when you wash it, it may come off. And if I try to release that glue with the iron, then it will be permanent. And of course, if I were doing one of the other ones, I would do the same thing. Put it in place, go with the iron and iron it. Always use a cloth, and this is an old diaper from when my kids were little. And I use this as my ironing rag, but put that over the item. That way, if it's too hot, you also don't leave any marks on it.
Okay.
And, or you can also use a piece of contact paper. They sell it, Dollar Tree has it. Look at that.
That is a wonderful.
How is that?
That is wonderful. And can you show us how to put a filter inside?
And so this is
the bling ditto.
the bling, the other side, and you could grab the other one and put the other one on the other side. I kind of like the one side for added drama.
Yeah, I feel like that's a...
Here's my inside, and this here, you guys, is totally, I don't know if you can see it, I don't know if I'm doing a good job of showing you, but this is totally open because this is your filter pocket, right? So I take my filter, and I place it through here, center it, put this on, and there's no bug that's gonna get in there or come out. And that is what she looks like.
That
because
is
they're all female.
beautiful.
That's what she looks like.
Awesome.
So if you did one at home, I hope you have the same result. Go ahead and give your own self a hand and a pat on the back.
And not only that, but we would love to see those pictures.
That's
To
right.
see what you guys can come up with.
In fact, if you send those to the email that we mentioned before, you might have a shot at getting your own mask on display. So please show us what you got and let's see your mask too. And remember, we did talk about those of you who don't have a sewing machine at home or prefer hand stitching. So could you walk us through the process with that? Are the tools the same?
Absolutely. We are going to use the same tools with the exception of the sewing machine.
Okay.
We're not going to be using that. We're going to be using needles, the hand needles, and I will show you how to thread those. I'm not going to be using this because I'm going to be using contrasting thread. So I am stealing the one from the machine. But we need to start. I'm sorry guys, but my pattern fell.
Oh.
So we are going to start, this is just a little piece of fabric, it's just a square, and I know I'm covering my face, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
You guys are probably tired of looking at it anyway, so
Oh no,
give
Carmen.
you a break. And I told you, and I keep repeating, I am very frugal. Very, very frugal, so I am folding my fabric, and this is my bigger piece. I want to make sure that it fits in there, and it doesn't.
Carmen, while you are showing everyone, I am going to take the machine just
Yes,
so we
ma'am.
can
Thank you.
allow them
So we have more space.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Okay.
Is
so
this okay?
Now that's perfect, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so this is perfect, because I don't know if you can see it with the dark color, but the fabric is outside my pattern. And I am going to do the same thing. Put the little weight there. I cannot use the black or the ink because it's not going to show. So I am going to cross my fingers and try to use the red. And I can see that is working. Another thing, you guys, that I use at home is pastel pencils. And they are very expensive if you purchase them brand new. But check the thrift shops, the thrift stores, and I picked up a pack, and I think there were like 12 different colors. I paid like $1.50 for it. And I'll tell you, I swear by those pencils. And that's what I use as my favorite marking tool. I also spotted the Dollar Tree also has chalk pencils now, but they're totally different. They're a little bit more greasy, but the colors are very vibrant. And I picked me up like a half a dozen of those as well. I'm also kind of a hoarder, so I cannot just buy one. I have to buy a half a dozen just in case they disappear, like the sewing machines. And I absolutely love them. And they mark very well. They come in different colors. And you can't go wrong with the price because it's $1. That's $1 each. Versus the deal from the thrift shop that was like 12 for $1. But I know that you can see it because I can see it. And you will see I have my lining. I am going to make the next one all from the same fabric. So it's going to be all navy blue, inside and out. Okay, we're not going to do anything fancy. It's just for demonstration purposes. But here it is. Here is all the red line. And I am going to tack it with some pins so it doesn't move on me when I'm cutting. And remember that I told you guys, when you cut fabric, whenever possible, try to keep your fabric on a flat surface and lean your scissors against that surface. Do not lift it, and you should get perfect results every time, or close to perfect. If you lift them, they will get distorted. And again, if you don't like my method of marking, a method that I normally don't use myself, but it is great for beginners and it makes life a lot easier, you can just pin. You can pin the piece and then cut around the pattern. And that works as well. And we're almost done here. And voila! Now, because we're using one color,
oh, your one color
for the fabric, right? It's all going to look the same, but I have my 4 pieces here. This is, oops. This is my lining, which is the shorter part.
Okay.
And this is the longer part, it's the outside. And another thing, guys, I'm just noticing that this fabric has some little creases. It's always a good idea as well to press your fabric before you cut, because in this case it's not bad, but sometimes the creases are so bad that they will actually distort your fabric. So just go a little bit over it and kill those creases. And again, here we go, lining the short side. And I am going to work with that last now for no reason whatsoever. I'm just being fickle-minded. And this is the outside, and this fabric, I want to show you the difference, looks exactly the same on one side as the other one.
I see that.
So in this case, it really doesn't matter, but I
Now,
have,
if you marked on it, is it good to put the markings on the inside, or does it really matter?
in this case, this is going to be the seam, so whatever I sew is going to be the same.
Okay.
But sometimes when you're making, and this is getting way out of the realm of masks, if you're making a dress, a blouse, and you're fitting it, you're doing darts, like the darts that go here,
Yeah.
then those you definitely have to mark on the inside, because otherwise you have the marking on the outside.
Oh.
So always do your markings on the inside, but for these, they're on the edge, so it doesn't matter. So now I am going to show you guys how to do this. I am going to take my thread, and don't be thrown off by these. I have a lot of these combs. They belong to another machine, and I decided I was going to use them because they've been around for a while. But a small one that I showed you at the beginning, this is most likely what you're going to find in the stores. This is fine. It's the same thing, it's just a quantity. This is more. And I am going to pull about yay long, because if I do longer than this, it's going to cause me problems.
Okay.
And I always forget to do these. What happens when you hand sew, and yes, I am putting that in my mouth because that helps me with the point of the thread.
No, but we've got plenty of sanitizer.
They also make, guys, needle threaders. And it's for hand needles, it's a little gadget, it's a little funky, it's a round thing with like little antennas. And you put that through, put the needle through because it's open, pull it back and in a second. But I'm so used to doing it this way. You know, I'm a creature of all habits.
There's nothing wrong with old school.
No, but my eyesight is not that great anymore. So here we go. So you want about that size, because if you do any bigger, any longer than this, it knots and it trips you. And it becomes very difficult. But to avoid that, at home, and I always forget to bring it for the classes, for the demonstration, if you have a candle, you put these through the candle, through the wax. You just do these. And the wax attaches itself to the thread, and it will not move. It's absolutely wonderful. That's how you avoid the knots. But you will see that there will be knots.
So is that hot wax or cold wax?
No, cold wax.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
No, not the hot, because the whole thing will go up in flames. But you just, you know, like say this is your candle right here, and you just start and go like this, and just run it through the wax.
Thanks for clearing that up. I'm sure I'm not the only one who was thinking
Yeah.
that. Or maybe it was just me.
Okay, so remember, you guys, we have the built-in seam allowance in here. Now, I have more control with my hand, but if you want, and I am going to do it a little small, so that a 1/4 of an inch. If you want, if you're worried about getting it straight, trace a seam, and we're gonna follow that. And again, please don't let these little thing throw you. I use these for hems, for doing hems, and it really makes all the difference. These things are so helpful for doing hems. If you have a ruler, use the ruler, or the measuring tape. And you can see
Mm-hmm.
there is my seam allowance, right? Because I am doing this by hand, I am going to be controlling it all with my hand, so I am not going to pin it. But you guys could pin it if you want. So let's show you how to pin it. Change my mind, I'm entitled to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what I am going to be doing. I am coming here as close as I can to this edge, and I'm bringing my needle in and out. Now I am going to try to do one very tiny stitch down on the other side.
And is this reinforcing for the hand stitching?
You do not need to reinforce for the hand stitching because you have a knot, and the knot reinforces.
Oh, okay.
That's your reinforcing right there. However, you could reinforce that one more way. We do it at the end by going in between the thread. See, right there? There's a little hole right there. Now you're doubly reinforced. So I am going to show you what is probably the simplest stitch. And what I am doing is I am going in and out. And you kind of have to guess these, guys. There is unfortunately, no rule for this. And I have been doing it a long time, so I kind of know where to place the needle. But if you put your needle in there and it doesn't, if it comes out like over here or over there, then you know you have to move it because you want to keep as straight a line as possible. And again, this is all we're doing, in and out. Now, if I keep going in and out like that, one by one, we're probably going to be here the rest of the day. So I am going to speed it up a little, and I am going to try to go in and out, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually 3 stitches in there. 5, 6, and I am kind of letting the needle guide me on how many stitches. So that's about almost a full needle. Now I can pull it on the other side. And look, see how many stitches I did there? That's
Cool.
so that we can speed it up, and please don't feel discouraged if it doesn't come out right the first time, if it comes out crooked. Try to make the stitches as even as you can. If they don't come out, that's fine because we're going to correct them. We're going to do these again on the way back. We're going to reinforce those stitches. We'll catch them on the way back. We'll catch it on the rebound. How's that? And as you can see, my thread is getting a little, sometimes it's more difficult than others. It's behaving today. But it knots. But if you can do these, you guys, or maybe if you have never ever done this before, you may want to get a little piece of fabric, and practice your stitch until you get it right. And of course, for the children, if we have any children in the audience, please, please, kids, have mom with you when you do this, because you can pinch yourself, okay? So try to have mom guiding you and supervising you when you do this.
But children as young as 8 can do something like this, right?
Absolutely. My son, ironically, I have a boy and a girl. My girl had absolutely no interest for sewing, but my son was fascinated by my sewing machine. And since he was about 2 years old, he used to take my sewing machine and he used to take it apart. He used to thread it, he used to put the bobbin back in, he used to do all of that. And he used to play, he used to sit on the floor and take all of my pins and take out the pins and put them in the floor, put them by colors. Never once did he get hurt. My daughter would have put the entire pin cushion in her mouth. So it depends on the child as well. Some kids are better. It's like anything, you know. We human beings, that's who we are. Some kids are better, but relatively speaking, at about 8. And I would still have mom supervising because these needles are very sharp. So
Yeah.
let me show you this, right? You can see it because it's
Yes.
white. Right? And it's not the same as the sewing machine because if I open here, you will see, and of course it's a different color,
Oh.
that it's open. But I am going to go back now. So what I am going to do is go in at the beginning of that other thread. And I am coming back up, and I'm sorry guys, but when I sew, I can't have it flat on the table. I have to manipulate it a little. But what I am doing is going down, I should say, at the beginning of the first stitch and coming back up under it,
Oh.
okay?
So you're going back up.
Correct. And I want to get a few done so that you can see how it closes those gaps. And then it does look like the stitch from the sewing machine, although a little bigger. See that?
Wow.
No more gaps.
I never knew that about hand stitching.
So no more gaps. Well, I think about these a lot because it's fascinating. Sewing machines have not really been around for that long. I think they've only been around for like 200 years. I think they were, I am not sure if they were invented in the 17 or the 1800s. Either way, it's about 200 years old. So picture Scarlett O'Hara's dress made from the curtain by hand with these stitches because back then they didn't have a sewing machine.
You said a curtain? Like the thick?
Scarlett O'Hara's dress. Did you see the movie Gone with the Wind?
No, I actually have not seen
No,
that.
you have not. Well, Gone with
I
the
do
Wind.
know
That's,
that
ooh,
there's a house here though in Atlanta associated with that movie.
Marietta.
She's the one who wrote the movie?
The Gone with the Wind. Well, the movie,
the
the
book?
setting of the movie is Atlanta during the Civil War. That's why it's an Atlanta thing.
But that house is by
it's in
the
Marietta.
author?
It's in Marietta. The Gone with the Wind Museum.
Oh, I mean the house. I think somebody who wrote the movie or the book,
Oh,
their house is in Atlanta. And then the terrace.
I honestly don't know about that, but if you watch the movie, in the movie, they lose everything. And, because, you know, the North, when they came in, they burned down Atlanta, right?
Mhm.
So when they lived in a plantation, so the servant, well, at that time it was a slave, but the servant, Mamie, who was like her nanny, her caretaker, her everything, her companion, made her, because they were so poor, they had lost everything was burned. For an occasion, Mamie made her a dress from a curtain. And it was, you know, back during the Civil War, it was those dresses that they had to pick up and like put on a cart and on a wheelbarrow and carry with them. Or picture those during the, like Louis the 13th, you know? And
Sorry about that.
all of those were made by hand and made this way with these stitches. Okay. And that right there, you guys, I got myself pricked because I was busy talking. Okay, so I am going to show you again how to lock these. And what I am doing is I am putting the needle through that stitch, coming around and putting it through that little loop. And I do it one more time, just to make sure. And this is the equivalent of the going back and forth with the sewing machine. Oops. Going back and forth with the sewing machine 3 times. And this is not going to go anywhere. Okay, so now, and again, it's in white. So if this were in a matching color, you could not see those little points. But see how much
Yes.
close they are?
Yeah.
Now, there is no way that you can tell the difference between that and a stitch from the sewing
That's
machine.
right.
So,
Now,
your Inspector 66, I want you to take a look at that.
yes, that closes them again. So now, from what I remember the last lesson, you're supposed to do the little cuts,
Correct.
and then that will make it not bumpy.
Right. And if you want, you can do that. Being
I'm scared.
You're scared?
Yeah, I would, but I don't think I need to do that for everyone else.
You would, but you won't.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to come back and watch the video later.
We are going to go, and again, guys, I want you to see that. Trying to see if I have anything else that we can compare it to. But there it is by hand. Okay, now if I had done that instead of white, and I'm doing this in white on purpose so that you can see it,
Which that's
if I had done it in the navy, you wouldn't be able to see, you couldn't tell the difference. So what I am going to do now is I am going to do those little cuts, and again, being incredibly careful not to cut over the stitches, because you are going to see a side of me that's not very pleasant or nice.
See, that's why I didn't
I
do
do
the cutting.
that. If you cut them, you would see that side of me.
Oh, see, you almost set me up there.
So here we go,
Okay.
and
awesome.
see? That again, it's nice and rounded. And you can already see it taking
Yes.
shape. So we're going to do the same thing.
We just did the outside? Or
This
do
is
you-
the outside because it is the longer part, and if you get confused, I put a pin on the shorter, I could have put the pin on the longer. But if you're ever at a point where you're getting a little confused, measure them, or compare them. And the longer one is the outside.
Okay.
In this case, it truly
The
makes
last one I
no
realized
difference.
it was easier because they were such different pieces,
Right.
but now that I'm looking
And
at the
in
same,
this case, it doesn't even make a difference because you can't, even if you do it backwards, there's no way of doing it backwards because it's the same fabric. So, again, about yay big, and I know I didn't show you how to do the knot the first time, but I am going to show you how to do it this time. My great-grandmother was 104 years old when she died. Her mind was completely gone. Now, she didn't have Alzheimer's or senile dementia. She just had, flat out, her mind had given up on her. She could not remember anything, but other than that, she was walking and she was talking to people. She would run away from home and they would have to go chase her. At 104, she used to thread a needle. 104, without glasses.
that's pretty awesome.
So, oh, I know. She didn't know who she was, but she could thread a needle with no glasses. Okay, so my needle is threaded here, and I have the end. This is the end. What I am going to do is I am going to take my index finger, and I am going to wrap that around my finger. You can do it more than once, but I am going to do it one, and I'm rolling it out as I go. And there is my knot. I don't know if you guys can see it at the end.
So you just
It doesn't, yeah, it's a knot, you can feel it,
cool.
right? So it doesn't always come out that nice. Sometimes the legs are like long, one longer than the other. You just snip it and bring it back down. So we're going to do the same thing with these, and because you saw me doing the first, I am going to try to go a little faster so that I don't keep you guys for too long. Because I'm thinking that you have got the gist of what I am trying to do here.
Yes, and anyone who's been paying attention to both these lessons, there's a lot of similarities. That's
Right.
one thing that's really, really neat
right,
about this.
and not only that, but I was going to say, even if they have they're still a little bit confused, they can rewind back to the first piece and see how I did it the first time slowly. But of course, by hand is not it takes me, when I sew with the volunteer group, we have a series of ladies who cannot sew that cut for us. And then the ones of us that know how to sew, we just sew and assemble them. And
That's
then we have
wonderful.
another group that does the elastic. So we're just strictly sewing the masks, assemble it. That's all we're doing.
Well,
I can put together about 4 to 5 of them in an hour.
oh wow.
So I fly through them in less than 15 minutes. And
Well, since you're sewing this part that we've seen before, let me ask a few questions
Mhm.
so I can pretend I am like those out there, quiz
Okay.
myself. All right. So when you started this piece, you did a little knot at the beginning,
Correct.
so that when you hand stitch, you reinforce with just a knot.
The knot is what reinforces, because
Ah.
that knot gets stuck in there, and when you pull, it's not going to come through the fabric.
And you don't have to do a knot at the bottom because you're going to go back up
Correct.
through the gaps in the
And
stitch.
then when I finish, I do another knot at the end.
So it's like a 2 knots essentially.
Two knot, beginning and end. So by hand, and the terminology is a little different because one is by machine, so you're reinforcing. And here you're not reinforcing, you're just
No.
tying, or
Okay.
not, yeah, tying your work.
Can you
to
say
make
knotting, or is it what do
Yeah,
you say?
Yeah, knot.
Knotting? Knot?
Yeah, not. My Cuban accent is getting in the way. Knotting.
Knotting.
Knotting. Knotting.
Knotting.
Okay? So you're tying those little knots so that it doesn't get away from you, and the seam doesn't split the way it would if you don't reinforce. So it's pretty much the same thing, that, obviously one is a machine, the other one we're doing it by hand. And I'm trying to see if we can go a little faster here.
After
So that
this, we'll do the little snippet cuts.
my
So we
folks
can-
don't get too bored. And I think that at this point we can heat up that iron again.
Okay. Remember how to turn this on?
Mhm.
Red button.
Yep.
Boom.
That is the safety trigger. So if you walk away and forget that the iron is on,
Oh.
and it really is surprising because that is a very old iron. But I'll get another iron when I can say, iron, make dinner. Like,
Well, I think it's
like
a-
Alexa, make dinner. Iron, make dinner. Okay, so here I go.
Okay.
I am going to tie again, so I'm bringing that needle up. I'm going, and once you get comfortable with this, you may find a different way of doing it yourself that you may like better. But I have more thread here, so I am going to show you a different way of doing it as well, okay? So I am going to go in, and I am wrapping the thread around the needle. 1, 2, 3 times. And that is it. These guys, I guarantee you, that is not going to go anywhere. That won't go anywhere. Now I am going to do those little snips in there, those little cuts. And again, guys, I didn't tell you, but here as well, if you want, you can trace that seam before you sew, so that you can get a straight line, or a straight seam, I should say. And we're ironing this, especially the center, so that it's nice and smooth, and we can get a nice little fold right there. And look at these, you guys. That's beautiful. Okay, I am not going to measure, but if you watched the class before, what we do here as well is you go about 1/4 1/4 inch, and you can trace it if it's easier for you. I kind of know where to fold, so this is about 1/4 inch. And I am ironing, making a nice crease. There's my crease, and I am going to, and actually, yeah, I'm going to do it. I am going to fold over again and press over that. Again, on the other side, I am going to do another 1/4 inch. Press over it. And I am folding over again. And the second fold is about 1/2 inch. Ah, cotton is just wonderful to work with. It irons so nicely. Okay, so right here in my hands, I have the lining. And I am going to do exactly the same thing with the lining. 1/4. And maybe 1/2 inch. And another 1/4 fold. Press. And fold again. Maybe 1/2 inch. Okay. And now I have my front and my back, or the outside and the inside. And I am going to line those seams and make sure they're nice and aligned. And I am going to put a pin in there so that they don't move. And I am doing the same thing here. I am aligning, and I just had an idea. You could have not made one of these with me.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
Maybe next time.
I don't know if I should do that on camera, because then they'll know the truth about my hands and skills.
Okay.
Let's just say it would be very comical if I did that with you, Cameron.
No.
Oh, you believe in me? You're so sweet.
I totally believe in you. This is not rocket science. Seriously, it's not.
So you're getting ready to hand stitch?
So I am going to stitch now.
Can I ask you a favor when you do
Sure.
that? So it sounds like some of our viewers want to see how you're taking the needle in and out.
Okay.
So can you do that next stitch up high where they can see it in this camera right here?
High. Okay.
And that can
So
help
this
them.
is where we have the fold. One in and out. And I'm going to run out of thread too, so let me thread another needle. This is a big one. I could give someone a COVID injection with that. Shot of Lysol. So again, guys, I'm going to show you how to do these again. Now this is a nice and big needle, so I can see the eye. So it's in, and I am evening out these threads. Again, taking my index, wrapping the thread around my finger, and pulling it, and see this one came out a little. See, so just snip that. Good to go. Okay, and now I am going to try to hide that knot. So I am not going to start at the bottom, I am going to start at the top, which is the inside, right? Because here's my seam. So I am going to go in and bring the needle out the other way. I have to hold it this way so that I can accommodate it in my hands. And here we go. In, or up, I should say, up. I'm coming up with my needle, I'm taking a small stitch and going back down. And you see how the knots are forming? If you do the wax, that would not happen. So again, I am pulling up, taking a small stitch and bringing it down the other side. And look, here's the perfect example of what happens.
Oh.
And if that happens, that's perfectly all right. I'm surprised it didn't happen before. The thread just knots all over the place. It's the nature of the beast. So, I don't know if you guys can see it well there. I don't have a good grip on these material, but I'm so used to manipulating the fabric with my hands that if I try to do it in a different way, I get kind of lost. But here we go, in again, or I should say up and down. Here's the needle the other way. Now I want to accelerate these a little bit, and what I am going to do is bring the needle up, and I'm trying to make sure that the stitches are small and there's not a big gap between them. And I am going to go down and up without pulling the thread, just on the needle. This is the needle only, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to make several stitches so that I can go faster. And right there, you have 3 stitches. When I pulled the needle on the other side, look, just going in and out, only one time, I came up halfway through. And again, this is something that you can practice, and you will be able to do this once you make, by the time you make probably your second or your third mask, you should be able to do these very easily. And this is a very big needle, so it's fighting me with the fabric. I'm using the wrong needle here. So if you use a smaller needle, that should not happen. And what the thread is doing, that is normal though. Okay. So here the fabric is fighting me a lot because of the girth of the needle.
Thank you for showing us how to go in and out or up and down with the
Or up
needle
and
there.
down, as you prefer. So now, in this particular case, and see, here's a knot. So make sure when, before you knot and you tie your work, make sure that there isn't anything like that, because that will show. Now, there is going to be absolutely no pressure on this, nothing. So I am going to leave it with 1 row. But if you want, you can do the 2 rows and make it look pretty, okay? But 1 row, and here I have another knot, but 1 row will take it. Now, when we do the other one, for the other casing, for the elastic, then you cannot do that because the elastic will pull on it and will take it apart. And I'm sorry, I didn't show you how to do that, which is okay because I have to do it again. Sometimes those knots come out very small too. So, which is what happened there. So, here I go again, my index finger. Take the thread, wrap it, and pull it. And I know that my fingers are in the way, but it's the only way that I can do it. And you could do that a couple of times, and if at some point you learn, and I'm sure that there are going to be other people out there that know how to do better knots than that, in a different way, please, by all means, feel free to experiment. There is no right or wrong. As long as your work doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't unravel, there is no right or wrong. It's, you know, what works for you. And this is the way I learned how to do it, so I've been doing it that way all my life. So again, I am going to go through this one a little fast so we can move. And then I'll show you how to do the outside with the double stitch.
And to make sure that I'm following along correctly,
Mm-hmm.
you said that this one you can go through just once because this is not the elastic side.
That is correct. This is, what I am doing here is the casing on the lining or the filter, lining and the filter, the liner on the lining and filter pocket for the purposes of a mask are the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
For purposes of a dress, it's not, but then again, you don't have a filter pocket in a dress, haha. I hope.
Although there's
You have a
probably
lining.
a lot of people making masks right now that used to make other things, but this is the time that a lot of people are using those talents other ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's wonderful, by the way, to anyone out there who's in that group. Thank you for helping us survive this crazy time.
This is a great thing, as I mentioned before, not only to pass the time while you're kind of marooned inside, but you're picking up a new skill,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a new skill that, depending on your marketing skills, you can easily turn into a business and you can make money out of it. So keep that in mind as well. I have a sewing machine that does embroidery as well.
Oh.
So what you can do is you can take these guys, but for that, you have to do it before you cut the fabric. You can also do an embroidery design on the side, the way we did the bling. So instead of the bling, you can do embroidery. And for the fall, I made some with a pumpkin, with an orange pumpkin on the side. They turned out adorable. Absolutely adorable. Okay, so I am not going to do this part yet because I have to do these seams first. And of
Now,
course,
can I ask you a question about the
Sure.
seams? So I know last time we put the wire in at a separate time. So is this where that happens, or is there another?
and I was just going to do that. Thanks for reminding me.
No problem.
And what I am doing here is actually, this is 3. I'm cutting these. I cut the pipe cleaner. I know some people call it pipe cleaner. I call it tennille. Tennille is fine as well. But I'm doing these in thirds so that they're equal. Alright, so that's about that. Okay, and I am only going to put it here so that it hits me when I get there, alright?
Okay.
So,
So we're not there yet.
not there yet.
Okay.
We're getting there yet now. Okay, so what I am going to do here is sew the front. Let me show you guys what I just did, right? Normally, that stitch, and it's a little big, but when you leave it like that, that's called a basting stitch, and it's a great way of putting together, when you're making a garment, putting it together so that you can try it on for a fitting.
Oh.
And then when you're done trying it on, instead of the pins, because the pins tap you, imagine trying to try a pair of pants on with pins. So if you do these by hand and you can do the stitch like really long like that, it's a lot easier to do the fitting. And then when you're done, you go, that little knot that we tied at the end, you take that knot, you cut it, and you pull it, and the whole seam comes out. So that's just a little bit more of sewing lingo in there. And I know I am going to run out of thread here, but I am going to try to use it because I think I'm out of needles. So again, I am going to do the in and out routine so that we can go through these fast, because I need to do these. I should do it double so that the mask doesn't fall apart. My God, almost. Half of that.
So if you run out of thread, you can just grab another one and continue from there?
Oh, sure. You tie it. I have been trying to cut the thread so that I kind of know how long to cut it so that I don't have to rethread. But I wanted to use these little two, and it's the only two needles I have handy. So yeah, you tie it right in the middle, right there. See my tie right there? And see my knot? And keep going.
Okay, good. That is definitely a good one for the new ones.
Yeah, that would be like the equivalent of the sewing machine, say, running out of thread or the thread breaking.
Okay.
And your seam is interrupted in the middle. And what you do is when you come back, you go back a little higher. And come back. In other times, I also thread like 3 or 4 needles. So I have them ready to go. And you guys have no idea how tiny this hole is. So if you can get that little needle thread, or it should be a little cheapy thing that you can get at the Dollar Tree, get them. Because that helps a lot. And I'll make sure and I'll have it with me the next class. It's going to make my life easier. You want to try doing the little knot? No? You scared?
Yes.
You going to cry?
No.
Okay. Index finger,
Okay.
right? Wrap it around your index finger.
Oh,
And
wait.
as you're pulling it out, twist it.
Twist it. Wait.
Yep, there you go, there you go, there you go.
Ah! Oh.
Almost.
Oh, okay.
Try
okay,
it again.
Wait. All right, I got this.
See, she's never done this before, you guys. Twist it. Pull it.
Did I do it? I think I did it. I thought.
Yay! Yay,
Naughty.
Jessica!
I mean,
look, you guys.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
a little leggy, but that's okay. That happens to everybody. We caught that, and there's the knot. Yay! See? Now you can go home and tell the hubby, I learned how to make a knot
I did.
today.
Thank you.
And present him with a mask full of nuts. Okay, so this is my last little piece there. Okay, so I am going to go back on this one.
So this is the one we
Because-
do have to go back.
This is the bottom, and that takes a little bit more.
Okay.
There's more pressure on it. Not gonna leave the sentence hanging there. So I am going in and I am closing that gap. And there are other stitches as well, you guys. If you don't like this, there are other stitches, hand stitches. So I really recommend, maybe I'll try them next time. But I recommend that you look them up, because normally embroidery, hand embroidery, has a great deal of different stitches that may be easier and more efficient for you to do these.
Really?
Yeah, there is one where the needle, you take the stitch and you come back out, and you bring the thread inside the thread, and what you do is you form a chain stitch. But I thought that was going to be a little too complicated for the class,
Yeah.
and I didn't get into that. But once you get comfortable with it, I really, guys, really recommend you that you look into that. And who knows, maybe we can do a class on, one of those fancy stitches and do a little embroidery or something. Teach you how to do something pretty.
Speaking of teaching us how to do something, I have a question.
Sure thing.
So, I see we're working on the bottom. Is it best to do the bottom before the top when hand stitching, or does that matter?
It does not matter. It's just a matter of preference. Not preference, really. It's like whatever you grab it. And when I did it by machine, I grabbed the top, and here I grabbed the bottom.
Oh.
You have to sew both parts, so it doesn't matter. There are certain fabrics, like velvet. Velvet is a beautiful fabric, but very difficult to sew.
You probably don't want too many velvet masks in the same time.
Where you, no, you
Might be
would
a
not
little-
make a velvet mask,
a little
but for sewing it purpose, it does make a difference. You
Yeah.
have to sew it all in a certain way and going in the same direction, but these other, doesn't matter. And particularly cotton is like the paradise of sewing,
Really?
because it's just such easy fabric to work with, and it's very forgiving as well. Not to mention that it's very tightly woven, which is the reason why the CDC recommends it.
Oh.
For masks.
And that's a very important factor there.
Yes. I always try to go for the cotton.
So it looks like you're putting the wire in now, so you put that in now?
Yes, and actually, I am not.
Okay.
When I do them in the machine, I do exactly the same thing. I do the seam first, and then after my seam is done, I come back and with a zigzag stitch, I put I tack the chenille in place, or the wire or whatever I'm using. I tack it in place, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing for this one. Only I am going to do it from the inside. We're almost done here. I am going to run out of thread here as well. Now, running out of thread on this application is a little different because you're closing the gap, right?
Oh, okay.
So I'll show you. And I'm tying here, guys, but I have very little thread, so trying to fudge these can't show you what I'm doing. Alright, so that's tied. But there is a little trick, which is really no trick, it's common sense, for this. That thread has to be absolutely perfect, because if it frays a little, it will not go through the eye of the needle. So here we go again, right? Now when I pull it from here with my thumb, I'm kind of rolling it. And maybe that's where you were having the problem. I didn't explain that.
Ha!
Because
But
it's so second nature to me,
Yeah.
you know, that I wasn't counting on the rolling, but you roll it, and when you roll it, that's what forms the knot. Okay, so I ran out of thread,
Mm-hmm.
and now what I do is I come back on that first, right? You see the gaps in there?
Mhm.
So I am coming up here so that I don't have any holes, and closing that gap. Because I am going down where the hole ends,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm calling it a hole, it's a space, and coming back up where the other stitch is, so that I can get that look like it's a sewing machine. Okay, and I'll do these a little fast so that we don't lose anybody falling asleep.
Speaking of falling asleep, you're gonna sleep much better when you're feeling safe because you got a good mask. See what I did there?
Yes. I see what you did there.
Thank you.
And I was a teacher in another life, and I think that every teacher's worst fear is to have a class that goes to sleep on you, and when the bell rings, you have to wake up your students. That's not good.
Wonder how they're doing it on the Zoom now.
That's not a good sign. Well, I have taken a lot of training lessons on Zoom, And the good thing is that the classes are not very long. And the other thing is that more times than not, I do the, not the live class, although the live class is always good for the questions, because you can get your questions in. But I do the rerun because that way I can do it at my pace.
Did you teach this when you were a teacher?
Actually, my degree was in bilingual education,
Oh, wow.
but yes, I did teach sewing at a
Awesome.
community school, yeah.
It's a very good skill to
And
have.
we did it differently. We did it all with the machine, and I had my students started on 0. And by the time they were done with me, they had made something of their choice, whatever, one article. Well, 2, because we started with a pillowcase. And the second was something of their choosing. So there were girls that would make. I only had one male student in all that time. But I had one lady whose son did Civil War reenactments, and she made a coat for her son, which was an ambitious project for a beginner. But she did it. She was determined, and she did it. Yeah. I had another lady that made a poncho for herself. It's beautiful. I had some ladies that would make baby clothes for their kids. Because it was usually like
This
moms.
is where we're adding the wire.
And now we're adding the wire.
And does it matter which side you put it on?
I have it, no, not really.
Okay.
I have it kind of marked down the middle because that middle is going to go with the top of the little peak right there. Okay, and now this is what I would have done when I was sewing by machine. This is how I would have done it. I would have come back, and with a zigzag stitch, I would have sewn that inside. See where the seam is right here?
Mm-hmm.
And I am placing it on that seam allowance
Okay.
with a long stitch because it doesn't. This long stitch is well secured for this purpose. And I am going outside. I don't know if you guys can see it, that here is my white line, and I am going on the seam allowance. And I am just doing along, this is called the hand stitch. It's the one the surgeons do as well when you have an operation. So I'm going inside, and what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the little caterpillar here and sewing it in place. Okay, and I think we're going to need the iron again.
Okay.
Okay, so I am going to lock my stitch here, making sure that doesn't go anyplace. And there is my caterpillar,
Oh.
right on the top. It's not much different than the other one. It's just that I'm doing it at the correct sequence this time. Okay, and again, remember, I'm using my thumbs, going through these, placing my thumbs here, and bringing with my fingers the fabric in. That's how I am turning it. And I know that you're seeing a lot of white, but if you do these with a thread that matches your fabric, you won't see anything. It will look just exactly like the piece that we made with the sewing machine. And now I am going to sew, and there it is, you guys, see? Boom, there it is, and we can adjust it, and it's open. And then when you put it on, you can press that against your nose, and it stays in place. And we're going to sew these, iron this again, and I wanted to show you how the fabric naturally curls. Go with it. The fabric is helping you. So press on that. And press on it. And go with the little curl right there. Come come back out here, the little curl again. Press. And press, and I don't know if you remember, we had pressed that part. You can still see the creases. So I am going to go over that again. And again. And this is where we're going to put the, that's the casing for the elastic. Okay. So as I was ironing that, I kind of had a vision, an epiphany, that I think I am going to I was not going to top stitch it, but I think I am going to, just so that it shows the contrast, because that is going to be like a little decoration with the white. And you'll see what I mean when I do it. Because I know you're looking at me like, what is she talking about?
Okay, yeah, I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I was just going to politely nod and agree.
I can read people.
Oh, you're good.
When I have epiphanies, I can read people.
I'm like, what? Okay, cool, yeah.
This is my, you're looking at me like I have 3 eyes.
Oh, you can see that?
Look.
I was trying to hide that face. Sorry. Apparently I didn't hide it
You're
so well.
supposed to put on your Botox face.
Oh. Yeah, I don't have one of those. My face just does stuff.
Lucky you. Lucky you.
So it looks like we are in the home stretch.
Okay,
of
absolutely. And
this is the...
what I am doing here is the casing for the elastic. And this one we do have to double.
Oh, the top stitch, that's this.
Correct.
Ah, gotcha.
But I am going to do it in white with big stitches, and you're going to see how pretty it looks. It's contrast, it's like a decoration. So these I have to go double, guys, because this is where the elastic goes, and the elastic puts a lot of pressure on this casing. Because you put it behind your ears and it pulls on it.
So we have to double
we
stitch.
we need to do double stitching here. And the places of where you have the most stress is right here, because this is where you turn it inside out. Also, this is what you open for the filter. So you're putting stress on that, and this because of the elastic. Also, they make, which I don't have today because I don't use them, but they make a little gadget that's called a thimble, Thimble, thimble. And they make them, I saw them for the first time made out of rubber, but normally they make them out of metal, and it's like a little bell that you can put on your, well, if you're righty, you put it on your right, and that protects your finger from the needle.
The one that's in the way? Like the one that you're going towards, that finger?
Correct.
Okay.
You put it on your index finger, and that protects it from the needle, because when you go in and out, that can
I used to
hurt you.
see thimbles and I never knew what the point was.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I never wore them. I learned how to sew without using them.
Without poking yourself?
Oh no, I poke myself like crazy.
Okay.
It's just that I didn't learn to use them. And now I found them very awkward, and that's why I said in the other piece, I said I'd rather show you how to do something the correct way the first time, because getting used to doing it right once you learn it wrong is very difficult. And that was one of those things that I didn't learn how to use, and now it's very difficult for me to use it.
Oh.
But I recommend that you guys, if you do it from the beginning, it really does help a lot. And I know that there are people that will not do a stitch without their thimble. The old seamstresses, but so it does help. And as I said, I went to, I don't know if you guys have them on this side. I live on the northwest side of Atlanta, and we have Bargain Hunt.
You're talking about the store?
The store,
Yeah.
yeah. And for the first time, I saw them at that store, and it was a whole sewing kit, and I had it in my hand, and I was tempted to buy it. And I said, with all the sewing stuff I have, do I need a sewing kit? But it had a rubber thimble. That's the first time that I have seen it. So if you guys have a Bargain Hunt near you, and I don't know how much it was, but check it out. You may be able to find, it had everything. It had needles, it had hand needles, it had pins, it had the thimbles, it had the needle threaders, just about everything that you need to hand sew. And it was a box about this big. Nice little kit. Another place, you guys, that you may want to check is garage sales. And estate sales as well. And sewing stuff, they give it away cheap, because that's easy to find in stores. So even if you do an estate sale, they're going to be cheap. But garage sales, and you can pick up fabric like crazy at garage sales too. People like me that have a basement full of them, when they move,
That's a really good tip.
yeah. Before I moved here, I used to go to garage sales every weekend and come home with boxes full. Anybody want to buy some fabric? Okay, so this is what I am going to do. And see how sharp that looks? The
Yes.
white with the
And hold it up for, will you hold it up for them to see too? From the front. Beautiful.
this is, guys, where we're going to put the
Elastic.
the elastic for there. Thank you.
No problem.
That word that I can't remember. That complicated word. So I am going to show you how to do one side. This should be fast, and you're going to see how pretty. And as I was, my mind wanders off when I'm doing menial things. And when I was pressing that, that's what gave me the idea. I had a skirt when I was a teenager, and it was that color. And I top stitched the entire skirt in white with yarn for knitting with a big, it was sharp.
Huh?
It was very sharp because of the contrast. And see how the thread is getting twisted?
Mm-hmm.
But this is fast because it's a big stitch. This also helps me secure the
wire.
wire
Very
a
nice.
little bit more. It encases it, not secures it, it encases it. So it doesn't move. Although it shouldn't move with those stitches, but and I don't know, guys, if you can see me there. But I am doing these stitches. They're kind of big, but I am doing them on purpose so that they can be very visible. Did you hear that?
That was an iron.
That was the iron.
Oh.
It's like the trees, you know. If no one is in the forest, they don't make a noise.
So I guess that applies.
You have to be listening for it, like the trees. Oh yeah, guys, we're getting silly. Towards the end of the day, we get silly.
Yes.
Now wait till we'll start telling you jokes. I'm a self-professed clown,
Oh, really?
but she is a comedian. I'm just a clown.
If it makes you feel better, I'm a former clown.
I went, my corporate job, I used to travel extensively.
Oh, really?
I used to be gone half the year, like every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And I had offices that I audited in all 50 states. And I believe it was Iowa one day. And the hotel where I was staying, I always stayed at Marriott. I felt very safe with them. And this is not an endorsement, guys, just a comment. So I'm staying at this Marriott hotel. It was a nice hotel. It had several floors and an inside glass elevator. And I came after work. I came to the hotel. I was going to take a shower and dress and then go out and get something to eat. And as I get in the elevator, next thing I know, I'm surrounded by clowns. I look in the lobby and there was a clown convention. And I'm going to clown with the clowns. You know, like I tell you a few jokes, you know. And I called my best friend and I said, "You're not going to believe this." She says, "What?" I said, "I am in this hotel in the middle of a clown convention." I thought I was going to have to call 911 for her laughing. Oh, it was funny. So the whole week, because I was there a week, I had 2 offices in Iowa. So I was there surrounded by clowns the whole.
Did you make some friends?
No, actually there were none.
Oh.
Which is what I hear.
Now,
People,
I see you just finished your top stitch there.
yes.
Did you want to show us that final?
So there is the top stitch, and I just want you to see, that's just a little decorative stitching that I did there, right? See how
Yeah.
pretty that looks?
This was very nice.
I'm in the white with the navy, and now I am just getting ready to
We're doing elastic.
do the elastic. And again, I am going to cut
8 inches. Ha! I am proud of
I
myself.
seem to be having an echo.
I think I'm starting to.
And these guys, this is a little thicker, a little heavier, wider than 1/4 of an inch, but 1/4 of an inch elastic is what we use, unless you want to use, like with the other masks, you want to use the t-shirt ties. And those work nice, those are very, very soft. I love those. And you can adjust them as well. And when you tie them, they're long, they come here, so I think it's like a little designer touch. I make them, I have made them out of lace, and the lace with those, you know, bridal for weddings. And I just had the elastic, you guys, get stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you saw me fighting with it. That is absolutely normal because it is the fold of the fabric that gets in the way. So if that happens to you, just jiggle it, work with it until it comes out the right way. Sometimes I have to undo the whole thing and then try doing it the opposite way, but that is perfectly normal. Don't get frustrated, don't think you're doing anything wrong. And again, if you prefer, you can tie a knot here. I am frugal and I save a little bit of elastic that way by sewing it by hand. And there's less bulk, so that when I bring that inside, it's not as noticeable. And again, I'm taking my pin, it's just a regular safety pin, putting it through the elastic. I always forget to show that. And putting it through the casing. And this is the casing, you guys, on the outside, not the one on the inside. And see, there it got stuck. So what I do is, this is an easy one. Move the fabric out of the way and get it out. And by now, if you have made your own to this point, I know that I don't have to show you how to put these, the elastic together, because you're a pro hand sewing. And all I'm doing is just about three of those hand stitches, and making sure that the two pieces of the elastic are nicely sewn together and they're not going to go anywhere.
Beautiful.
And there you have it.
Very nice, very nice.
And again, if you have plain fabric like this, remember you can always do a little bling as well.
And when you show them the other
Something
side,
white.
just a reminder of what
As-
the pocket
as-
looks like. I think our
Oh, the filter.
yes, just show them
as
the
well.
filter pocket.
Do I have? Yes, I do. And the filter. This is your filter pocket. Remember, it's open on both sides. That's why we left it open. It's a piece of thread. Here goes the filter. And it is nice and easy to put in there. These masks are made to measure for these, for the filters. And I know you cannot see it, but I can feel that it's nice and tight in there. And there is no bug that's going to get in or out of that. And there you go.
Perfect.
It even stands up.
And there's your hand stitch
And there's
mask.
your hand stitch mask.
Thank you, Carmen.
It takes longer, but if you don't have a machine and you are not inclined to buy one, you can have your own mask, and that is going to last a long time.
Yes, and so now you've learned how to make a mask with machine and by hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a few minutes of a little break. And if you want to come on back when we get back, we are actually going to show you how to make the face shield right after this. So maybe about 3 to 5 minutes, we'll be back and we'll do the face shield and take a little quick break. So thank y'all so much for hanging out so far.
Sounds good.
Water.
that it takes 24 hours to cure.
That being said, we're actually going to use a different kind of glue today, but do not use this glue at home. This is simply for the demonstration, but this glue will not hold the way the glue she mentioned here will. So just keep that in mind. Pretend we're using this glue.
E6000. We are going to need a hole puncher, and I hope the camera can catch the opening here. This is not a regular round paper hole puncher.
Oh.
This is more of, it opens like a little slot, more of a rectangular opening.
What's the significance of the shape?
And the significance of the shape is so that you can put the elastic through it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And these you can find at Hobby Lobby. However, if you do not have one handy or you cannot find it, you can attempt it with a regular blade, and all you do is you cut instead of punching.
Okay.
But this should work as well. You're going to need a piece of elastic, 22 inches long by 1 inch wide. And this is what goes through the plastic part and forms the strap in the back. And last but not least, you're going to need foam. And when you go to the store, you can go to any fabric store, and probably home improvement stores may have them as well. This is how it comes in a sheet like this. But all we need is a piece like this, about 9 inches by 1. And that is the part that will go right here against your forehead. So if you have a piece of foam laying around your garage like this, that will work.
Okay.
So the first thing that we will do, and I will try to make this as simple as possible, not too much measuring, is we will take that sheet of plastic and I will fold it, and not fold it hard, but kind of fold it like that to find the middle. Here is my middle, and I am going to mark that with my chalk. And I don't know if you can see it, but I have a mark right there, okay?
Okay.
Then we are going to take the piece of foam as well, the 9 inches of foam. I'm going to do the same thing for expediency and find the center in that as well. I need that. And there is the center, so I'm going to put that center to this.
Is that to make sure it stays in the center of your head?
So that it is perfectly centered, and yes, it will go, we want the sheet to go from ear to ear, so we want it to have equal spaces on each side. So this will be like over your nose. Okay, so that will be the center. Okay, and through the magic of television, here we have it glued. Right?
Uh-huh.
So we come on the side as well, and now from the top, like from the corner, and I don't know guys if you can see this since it's transparent, but this is the corner, okay? And I am going to measure 1 inch from the top. There is my inch, and I am going to go on the other side and do the same thing. Inch. Then I am going to use my handy dandy hole puncher and use that, I'm using that as a guide against the side. I'm using the mark as a guide against the side, and as you can see, it only goes about maybe a 1/2 inch in. So I will let it go in as far as it can go and punch the hole right there. And I am going to come on the other corner and do the same thing. Position it right against the side. Punch the hole. And I don't know if you guys can see them. I'm sorry. But here it is. Here are the holes.
Very nice, very nice.
Jeez. We take the 22 inch of elastic weave it through that hole.
Drink some water.
Okay, you got your water on the side here, if you grab that on the left.
Now it's my turn to choke. Jeez.
Something's going on in this room. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen.
It's like saliva went the wrong way.
There's a little dust in the room. Don't get nervous.
Wow.
You know, this is 2020. People still cough. It's just dust. Don't worry about it. You good, honey?
We have to start from the top.
Cut. Cut.
It's like...
It's streaming, right?
It's just streaming, it's not recording.
Oh, okay. So, action.
So what were you saying?
Okay, so we just punched those holes. And I
Right.
know that this is clear, difficult to see, but I'm gonna stick my nails through here.
Okay.
And I hope you guys can see the holes on the side, right?
Right.
2 slits on the side. Now we're gonna take the 22-inch piece of elastic and we're going to insert it. And actually it doesn't really matter much which way, whether you do it front to back or back to front.
Mm-hmm.
I did it front to back here. And you don't need any tools. It goes through it really easy because that hole is slightly under an inch. So if you get 1 inch elastic, it's a perfect fit. I'm gonna try it on so that I can adjust it.
Wow, that is actually a lot easier than I realized.
Mm-hmm. And I know that I have a pinch more. In here, you have a couple of choices. With the excess elastic, you can glue that.
Mm-hmm.
You can glue that on the tips, and you cannot see it. It's seamless. It's perfect. Or you could sew it, hand sew it. And I thought that perhaps I could lace it through one more time, but no, the hole is not big enough. But my recommendation would be glue those ends, and there it is.
Can I ask a silly question? Can you tie it? Because folks like myself, our hair and head shapes change due to hair, hats, and things like that. Is that an option too?
You could tie it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a aesthetics thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to look as good if you tie it. This is what you will get.
That makes sense.
It doesn't look too professional. But,
So then if you have an afro, you should probably make 2.
If you glue it,
Mm-hmm.
and you could also, actually, another option will be to cut the elastic twice as long. Like 22, instead of 22 inches, maybe go, and not necessarily 44, because see, that's all the space I have in there, but maybe go 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can sew it in the middle, and you can adjust it. Then
That's
you can pull
perfect.
it, and you can adjust it as well and make it as big or small as you need it. So like you, if you have different hairstyles, or like me as well, I've got a little bun back here, so it's bigger, but if I let my hair loose, it will be smaller. Then you can let it out.
Very nice.
If you can find a little buckle in the stores as well, and they should have those, you can also do a little buckle, but that's getting a little bit more complicated. So
and
doubling
thank you.
the size and gluing it right there, then you can adjust it
That's perfect.
Make
And that
it
variety is especially for the
larger
ladies.
and smaller. And that is it, you guys. This is added protection. You wear these over your mask, and it's perfectly clear. And I think it's great. And it takes what, like 10 minutes to make?
Yes. Yes. Wow. Wow. Y'all, that's it.
Yep.
That is how you do that. So now we've learned how to make hand stitch and machine stitch mask along with the face shield, and that we appreciate you for it, Carmen.
Oh,
Helping
I
us.
appreciate being here, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Oh, we did. Thank y'all so much for being with us today and joining us. If you have any questions, remember you can always email us at atlarttex@gmail.com. That's atlarttechts@gmail.com, and we'll get your answers back to you. You can also go back in the video to see the little parts that you really needed help on. Just check us out on Metro Web Designers YouTube channel. I am Jessica. It's all good. Thank you for hanging out with me today, Carmen, and y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Come, thank you.
Turn up for the birthday girl.
You just,
Right.
you